Well, we are learning just this evening that ABC journalists have complained to their management that Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails deserve equal treatment to Israeli hostages captured by Hamas. The ABC staff also complained about using words like massacre and terrorism when describing the October 7 attacks. But then they complained that they weren't allowed to use aggressive language when reporting on Israel's actions in response. These shocking demands are from ABC staff, including journalists, who are meant to be impartial. We know they're not impartial, and this document that I'm about to show you dismantles any notion that the ABC can claim to be objective when it's reporting on Israel's war against Hamas. This three-page document was obtained by Al Jazeera, of all places, under Freedom of Information, and it details many of the complaints from ABC staff about their coverage of the war. The journalists complained they weren't allowed to use words like war crimes, genocide, ethnic cleansing, apartheid and occupation to describe Israel's actions in Gaza and the West Bank. But here's what they say, and I quote, "Meanwhile, we're quick to use terrorist, barbaric, savage and massacre when describing the October 7th attacks." They also said we are far more comfortable in labelling Hamas's actions terrorism, yet lack the language to correctly describe Israeli aggression in the region. I mean, it's unfathomable that there are actually ABC staff complaining that they're quick to use terrorist and massacre when describing October 7. I mean, someone needs to tell these ABC journalists that the use of words like genocide and apartheid would be inaccurate when applied to Israel. ABC staff complained to management that, and I quote, "We mention the number of Israeli hostages in many stories, but we never mention the number of Palestinian prisoners in Israel." Well, that's because you cannot compare the two. The hostages, innocent men, women, children and babies captured by Hamas, whereas the Palestinians who are in prison in Israel are terrorists. They're criminals. It's unbelievable. This is what ABC journalists and staff think. Well, joining me now is Spiked Chief Political Writer Brendan O'Neill. Brendan, thank you so much for your time tonight. Look, this is coming from the ABC, taxpayer funded to the tune of $1 billion a year. Should we be surprised that this is how some of their journalists want their coverage on the war to unfold?
We shouldn't be surprised, but we should be shocked. It is outrageous and actually quite disgusting that there are people at the ABC who think there is a moral equivalence between Israel and Hamas and who want to use similar language to describe both sides. That's like saying there's moral equivalence between a fascist movement and the victims of that fascist movement. That is essentially what these people are saying. And they pose as if they're challenging the ABC's pro-Israel bias. As we know, the ABC doesn't have a pro-Israel bias. It has an anti-Israel bias. But they pose as challenging bias. But in fact, they want to bring more bias to the ABC. They want to bring their bourgeois bigotries into work. They want to bring their hatred for Israel, their Israelophobia, into the workplace. They want to use words like genocide, ethnic cleansing, apartheid state, these very inaccurate, fact-free, bigoted terms that are used against the Jewish state and the Jewish state only. So what these people are actually demanding is the right to spread their Israelophobia on the publicly funded broadcaster. This is a very serious state of affairs, and I think it really speaks to a moral rot at the heart of the media elite.